Looking for something for the national park lover in your life? Maybe that national park lover is you. Then be sure to check out the Gaze Shop, the official home of all Gaze at the National Parks merchandise, featuring original designs inspired by the sights, monuments, and majesty of the national parks. New this month is an exciting handmade item, the Gray Wolf Tote. This hand-printed canvas tote bag honors the beauty and majesty of the gray wolf. The range of the gray wolf once covered most of North America, but they were ruthlessly hunted and displaced from their traditional habitat. Today, through conservation efforts, the gray wolf has made a successful comeback, marking not only a return for the species, but a helpful aid in the health and diversity of many ecosystems. Act now, because this is a limited hand-printed run of totes that won't last long. And a portion of all sales of the Gray Wolf Tote go to the American Gray Wolf Foundation, which supports education about and the conservation of the gray wolf. Also, don't forget about our print and sticker collections, too. Visit shop.gazeatthenationalparks.com to bring some of the national parks home with you.
So cultivating joy. Well, first of all, we were obviously in New River Gorge with Grandma Joy at specific points.
It's true, we were.
So it's kind of like a double meaning here.
Yeah.
But I found that cultivating joy is so rewarding, but it takes a lot of work. And it's a lot of like moving through, like in my own personal life and journey, and I feel like you probably would say the same. It's like moving past a lot of parts of yourself that aren't necessary anymore and things that are like holding you back in order to propel yourself into a space where you feel just fully at home with yourself. And that, I think, allows you the opportunity to actually cultivate that joy, to like operate in that space.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like part of that work is part of the healing work, right?
Yeah.
Getting your mind in a place where it's like not debilitated by automatic thoughts that are connected to moments in your life when you did not receive what you needed or did not have the support that you needed or were made to feel less than you are.
Yeah.
When your mind is like coded in these, and I say coded like COAT, in these experiences that you've never really processed or acknowledged or called out any of the feelings associated with them. I'm seeing sort of like why reactions you're having now are connected to this moment from your past. I feel like that's when we really get into the space of your heart wants to embrace something, but your mind is telling you you can't. And your mind is telling you, no, that's not for you. And your mind is holding you back, right?
Yeah.
It's like your body and your heart are like open and ready to receive, but yet you convince yourself out of believing that you are ready for
and worthy
to have and worthy of any of that.
Yeah, that dirty bitch, the mind.
Well, I mean, that's part of what, distorted thinking is.
Sure.
Like catastrophizing and worry, anxiety. It's all connected to distorted thinking.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of things that contribute to distorted thinking, right? But I have found that cultivating joy for me has become not only a lot easier, but I feel like cultivating joy has become more of a routine process in my own life when I have worked through the trauma of the past.
Yeah.
You know?
Totally. Yeah, and I feel like for the first time in a long time, I'm in that space, like where that is like more readily available, Yeah. And I do think that time with people that you love and you care about helps you to kind of enter into that joy space a little bit easier and allows it to be a little bit more on tap, like readily on tap. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that is something that like, it doesn't keep it there because obviously if you're not in a headspace for that, but it does sort of activate it in a beautiful way, like where it's just sort of like this glimpse of euphoria for a minute. But like getting to a space where that is a possibility on like a daily basis is such a beautiful place to be. And I think that that is very true of where I'm at right now. I feel like same for you.
Yeah.
I also feel like if there's any person that I've ever met that feels like that is their life, it is Grandma Joy. Like what a perfectly apt name, for her to carry with her, because her outlook is so incredible, especially for where she is in her life.
And something that I think is really important is that in the work of cultivating joy, I think really the work is in cultivating circumstances whereby joy can be felt and where joy can be experienced and where joy can happen, right? I mean, I felt like I'd been doing that unconsciously, but now I feel like I am doing it consciously, right? And one of the reasons I felt like we were able to connect so deeply to Brad, Grandma Joy, and Jess, and Evan Williams, for that matter, is that they too are people who are in the business of cultivating circumstances wherein joy can be experienced for everyone.
Looking for adventure, I want to follow on the trail, or get a little lost and let the wind fill my sails. Get up when the stars still fill the sky, don't wake the sun, there's so much to be done, and the day has just begun. Go where the postcards are real, you can feel, you can open your eyes and open your heart when you gaze at the national park.
Follow you there.
At the national park. At the national park. Follow you, I'll follow you there.
We would like to acknowledge that while hiking and visiting the land also known as New River Gorge, that we were on the traditional and stolen lands of the Monoton, Yuki, Shawanoaki, Shawnee, and Tutelo peoples.
If you joined us for our last full-length episode, episode 86, you heard all about our epic hike along the Big Branch Trail with Brian, Tino, and our dear dog friend Shay, who is Brian and Tino's dog.
Who is the beagle.
He is a beagle.
And he's a tender, sweet boy.
He is a tender, sweet boy. A tender, sweet boy.
He is. That trail was a lot of fun, and it was our first strenuous trail with a dog friend. So go ahead and listen to Big Branch Trail so you can hear all about that.
Good times, but some tension for sure.
Oh, definitely.
Bum, bum, bum. We had a blast on the trail, but Shay definitely was wiped out. And Brian and Tino, basically when we were planning the trip, were like, hey, listen, we're along for whatever, but we're not going to do like a million miles like you guys do every day. So this was sort of like their, I think, exit strategy, and like, oh, well, Shay's really tired and we're also good to stop now.
But also part of that compromise, this like, you know, we had one car and Brian and Tino were like, but we will drop you off. It doesn't matter. Like, and that's the sign of like good travel companions. Is like God. Part of the compromise, but also like clear about interests and reality checking expectations before we're even gone, before we even leave, right? Healthy stuff, right? Reasons we love traveling with them.
But the two of us are consummate sadists when it comes to hiking. So we wanted to push the limits a little bit. And we decided that we would like to go to hike the Grandview section of New River Gorge in the afternoon.
Yes. This was our last full day here in the park, so we wanted to make the most of it as we could. So we did, after doing Big Branch, we were like, I feel like I could be up for another. I wasn't feeling like I could do like a 12-mile trail, but I could certainly do like 5 to 6 ish miles.
So remember, New River Gorge is very, very long. When we were in Sandstone Falls, we were essentially at sort of like the southern terminus of the park. Like, it's not the very south end of the park. There's a little bit further south, but it's sort of like probably the big thing that's in the south section of the park. And where we were the day before at Canyon Rim Visitor Center, we were pretty much the very northern terminus of the park. Grandview sort of the top of the bottom third of the park, and it was relatively on the way back for us to get to where we were staying. So it was kind of like perfect in that Brian and Tina were able to drop us off and then get us from there later on.
Brian, who loves to drive and is very happy to drive the entire time, dropped us off, was happy to drop us off and pick us up. and it was only about 15 minutes from where we were staying.
They were sort of like, we're okay to miss this section. Like, we're not going to be sad about it. But they did decide that they were going to get out and just walk around to the giant overlook with us. And Shay was going to join just for a little bit. And then they were like, we're going to dip and you guys have a great time, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Because New River Gorge is so close to neighborhoods and is on the edge of neighborhoods, this was sort of a funny drive getting to the Grandview section.
Yeah.
We passed a professional theater company on the side of the road. I definitely clocked that. Oh, right. And I told the story to y'all about the Black Swans at the Alabama Shakespeare Festival.
Yes.
Because I grew up going to Montgomery, Alabama, to the Alabama Shakespeare Festival. It is still in operation. Wonderful theater company, incredible shows. And they were a real rep company, meaning they had 2 stages, but they'd be doing like 5 shows at the same time. So they would literally, like, you could see a show in one theater in the afternoon and go back to the same theater and see a different show in the evening, and the set was totally different. And there were occasionally times where they would like leave the theater open so you could watch the changeover.
Sure.
But this place looks just like
the globe.
England. Like, it is made to look like the rolling hills of England. And they had like, there's a whole thing about who paid for all of it, right? But they had money. They wanted in their lake to have black swans just like the Queen has at one of her castles.
Well, the Queen had,
right.
R.I.P.
So what was funny was they finally, after like months of trying to get the right person to figure out who to contact, they finally get the right person on the phone. And the person is like, oh, yes, we actually buy all of the black swans at this spot in Alabama. And here is the address. And it was like 10 minutes down the road from them in Montgomery. So they just went down the road, bought the black swans, and then came back.
Hilarious.
I know.
Once we get into the parking lot of the Grandview section, which is very, very big because this is a pretty sweeping view. So I think it's probably a very popular part of the park. I feel like this was probably the biggest parking lot we saw when we were there. Brian and Tino also get out of the car because we want to all go up to the overlook together. And the overlook is not that far up from the parking lot. It's a pretty quick walk. And when Brad and Grandma Joy and Jess and Evan were with us in the fall, we also did this section.
We did. So what's wonderful about this section, about Grandview, is like we pull in. It's sort of like a circular parking area. You can park anywhere. There was always parking spots anytime we were there. It was never overcrowded both times we were there. And there is this one sort of like, you just take the sidewalk out to this view. It's maybe about 200 feet. And there's some fencing up or some railings up. And you can see this very picturesque view of the river making a bend around this one sort of like, I'll call it a hillside. I don't know if it's tall enough to be a peak. I mean, it's a peak, but it's not a mountain. And it's sort of like a horseshoe type of bend, right? When you look up pictures of New River Gorge, it's often that picture that pops up. And so this was the moment. So Brian and Tino and us walked out there to look at this. And then we also did this with Brad and Grandma Joy and Jess and Evan. And this was also a place where some additional friends of Brad who were joining us on this joined along. Like we met up with them there. Yeah,
some of his friends from vet school. So that's right. Walking out to the main overview is a long kind of wide slate sidewalk. As you get closer to the edge, you notice that there are parts of the path that cut off of this main artery in both directions. So we definitely clocked that. And you and I, when we were in there in the spring, knew we were going to be jutting off onto these guys. They're sort of, once you get to the Grandview, quote unquote, view, there are 2 sort of sections. One is like an upper viewing area, which is just a little bit higher with some deck railing around it, and a sign that points out kind of like the distant landmarks and hills in the distance. And then you can go further down into like this horseshoe kind of, it's all natural there. There's like, the stone is still there, but it's not like a deck. It's just deck railing up so you don't fall over the edge.
Correct.
And get like a more panoramic view there.
Right. Seeing this sort of horseshoe bend of the New River when we were there in the spring, it was very brown and very tan. And you could see speckled into the hillside were like peaks of green trying to emerge, but it was mostly gray, almost like the color of the trees were also almost the color of the water.
Yeah.
Water obviously is going to be reflective of whatever is around it.
But the water seemed muddy too.
Yeah. It was a lot of browns melded together.
Yeah.
Not dark, very light gray browns, right? Like a sage brown happening across the landscape.
Yeah.
And like seeping into the water.
Yeah.
In the fall, when we were there with Brad and Grandma Joy, this looked a little different.
Yeah. Very different.
It was the picturesque fall kind of...
Dabbles of yellow.
Yes.
A lot of green still.
Lots of green, small hints of like burnt orange coming through, a little bit of brown here and there, but it was seeing the same spot again at a different time of year.
Yeah.
Reasons why going back to natural spaces is always such a beautiful privilege and blessing and honor if you get to do that, right? Because now here is this spectacular space and it's a different experience because of the time, because of when this is.
Yeah, for sure. In the spring, when we were originally there with Brian and Tino, they leave us and they head back to the car after kind of taking some time to look around. And we were definitely having some cell phone issues. So we were like, listen, we kind of calculated based off of the mileage we were going to trek how long it would take us to get back to the parking lot. And we kind of gave like an estimate of time for Brian, if he didn't hear from us, when he should probably be back in case for some reason. And we packed some extra time in there just so that Brian wouldn't have to wait for us. So we would just have to wait for him if we had returned early. Yeah.
So we decided to first hike the tunnel trail.
Which is what I would recommend to do first.
Totally.
Yeah.
Because it's short.
Yeah.
It's short, everybody.
Yeah.
It's quick. The tunnel trail is off of this main overlook sidewalk that we were talking about. This is one of the things that forks off. It was to the right as we were headed out to the main overlook. So,
or on the left if you're headed back to the
parking lot. It really is a short, sweet little trail, but I loved this trail.
Oh, it was beautiful.
It was a half mile in total. And so it really is worth like adding it in if you're at Grandview.
Yeah.
Or hey, if it's the only thing you want to do at Grandview.
Yeah.
Also a good idea. Worth going to Grandview just to do this. I totally agree with you in the way that you have described walking around in this area or doing this trail as referring to it as like a mythical quest.
Oh my God. It 1000% was the quest stands upon a knife's edge.
Right. It was
stray. The forces of the Dark Lord will succeed.
Leaving the sidewalk to the main overlook, we descend these stairs and sort of are in the throes of it immediately. And this is giant boulders, moss on the giant boulders.
Just all the moss.
Bright green moss still happening on the boulders. Underneath a canopy of forest. It was the stuff that Game of Thrones is made of.
I think it was like Lord of the Rings for me.
Okay, Lord of the Rings. There you go. I don't watch Game of Thrones, so I don't know.
I know. I'm surprised you threw that reference.
You're welcome.
There's still a pretty big autumn feel here because there's really just dead leaves everywhere. Let your leaves decompose, folks. It's what they're there to do. Like, stop putting them in bags. Make your neighbors mad, but it's true. Like, let them decompose.
That's right.
This is why forests, have all of those, beautiful things happening in them because of decomposition.
Yes, natural part of the life cycle.
Yeah. There are some pops of green here and there. As we're heading down and you're on the trail for a little bit, which is for the most part in the beginning, that kind of slate sidewalk that we had talked about when we come out on the overlook trail, we do get to go through this little gap of rock, like split rock that's at like a hip height. And again, it just sort of was like, oh, we're entering into the boundary of fairy. I mean, anytime you and I walk together, we're entering in the boundary of fairy.
We bring the boundary of fairy at all times.
That's right. Yeah.
Sweetie.
Yeah.
And then up ahead of us, there was this signboard that looks like gigantic piles of slate covered in moss. So we head to the right around one of these piles. And I think we did say this. Like, it definitely felt like we were going to run into Kate Blanchett as Galadriel at any moment.
Offer me the ring freely? I do not deny. I have thought about it. And instead of a dark lord, you would have a terrible queen, terrible and mighty as the dawn. All will love me. This is what I cosplay
I am shocked.
in my life. Kate Blanchett as Galadriel.
I don't know if it's is it cosplay, if it's just how you exist. You know what I mean?
I am just living
just
my life
are
like Kate.
Kate Blanchett as Galadriel. I, however, am living my life as Kate Blanchett in this whatever new movie where she's like the
Tar, whatever. Yeah.
I was like, this is very intense, and I love it. It is just so beautiful here. This is evocative very much of Scudic Peninsula. I mean, for people who listen to this show all the time, we adored the Scudic Peninsula Trail in Acadia. And it really doesn't compare much to many other things. And we highly recommend do not go to Acadia and not do the Scudic Peninsula Trail. Go back and listen to that episode. You just hear us gush about that
mossy.
Beautiful trail.
It's mossy and beautiful.
Mossy and beautiful and
the way
very
the light was here, it was just beautiful.
And this was a late afternoon day when we were doing this.
It was about like 3 o'clock, I think, when we had started to hike. Yeah.
So it wasn't an overhead light. We were getting some side light coming in, just sort of like spilling into like through the canopy of the trees, like onto the rocks, onto the moss, onto the decomposing leaves.
Yeah. We do hit this point where it looks like you can sort of like when we're alongside this one big boulder where it feels like you can maybe climb down to the trail below, but it's sort of blocked off. It's not big enough for you to it's like kind of stair-steppy down into this hollow of the rock, but it's not big enough for you to get through because the trail itself is kind of like a balloon. Like where we first came out was like the string of the balloon, and now we're walking around the loop section. So this would have potentially brought us down to the bottom of the loop that would have connected us back up to the string, but no such luck.
Okay, so as we continue to wind around, we encounter what looks to be like this like boulder scramble on our left. It eventually gives way to these larger rocks that we do have to scoot around. The rock overhangs here, there's a rock overhang over the trail, which is sort of a foreshadowing to what will come later.
Yes.
But yes, we come along these like white cliffs that are like pockmarked and dappled with moss. And there's like a pretty big split on the rocks right before a bend in a much bigger rock. So this bigger rock that we encounter is pretty solid at the top, and it looks a little more chunky and like broken at the bottom.
After winding our way around this, we then encounter like a surprise boardwalk. So this sort of takes us underneath an overhang, like a much bigger overhang than what we had just experienced. And there are like such cool, like the thing about this trail was the rocks were really neat. And they're not like necessarily special, but this is where like geology is like so fascinating. And I'd love to know more about the geology of the space.
The things that grow on rocks.
Yes.
If
like
that is
moss. Like
if that is the thing that makes you like just
come alive,
piques your interest, then this tunnel trail is for you.
The boardwalk is very short, but we definitely hang under that overhang section, which is where the boardwalk is for a little bit. And then there are some stone steps that allow you to continue on and up.
So eventually we get beyond this overhang section and we get to some even bigger boulders that here are actually blocking the sun a bit. I remember there was like a significant temperature change in the shade.
Yeah. Well, it was still like, it was a warmer day, but it was a spring day. So like warmer was like, oh, it's 62. But like cooler in the shade was like, oh, it's like the high 30s here, you know?
Right.
So then we, after walking a little bit down this path, we come across this large set of wooden stairs that basically take us down. So now we're kind of at like the bottom of the loop in some ways, and starts to loop us back up and around on the bottom part of the trail, essentially, the low road, if you will, that would take us sort of back up to the main artery. And this was really just, I remember being like kind of like a very much so like bottom preview of what was up above. So there was just like a lot of like woods off to our right, and then like kind of the rock up to our left the whole way.
And with that, let's take our first break.
What if planting a tree was as easy as making a purchase? Well, not only is it easy, but it's incredibly rewarding and helpful in the fight against climate change, something I know we're both concerned about.
Introducing Aspiration Zero Credit Card, the credit card that helps the planet with every purchase you make.
We are big fans of Aspiration Zero because Aspiration Zero is the first credit card that fights climate change by planting trees with every swipe.
And who doesn't want that? The way it works is simple. With an Aspiration Zero credit card, you plant 2 trees with every purchase you make. And 2 trees soaks up about the same amount of carbon dioxide from the air as you put out every day.
Make your dollars make a difference. Apply for the Aspiration Zero card today and earn a $300 welcome bonus after spending $3,000 in the first 90 days.
Apply right now at aspiration.com/gaze to go carbon neutral effortlessly and earn a $300 bonus. Go to aspiration.com/gaze, and that's GAZE.
The Aspiration Zero MasterCard is issued by Beneficial State Bank pursuant to license by MasterCard International Incorporated. Good credit required. Terms and conditions apply.
When it comes to hiring, you need to trust your gut.
But what if you could give your gut some help? When you want to find top talent fast, you need Indeed.
Finding great talent doesn't have to be a second job. You can reclaim your time and find top talent fast with Indeed.
Hate waiting? I know I do. Indeed's U.S. data shows over 80% of Indeed employers find quality candidates whose resume on Indeed matches their job description the moment they sponsor a job.
Find top talent fast with Indeed's suite of powerful hiring tools like Indeed Instant Match, assessments, and virtual interviews.
Indeed literally does the hard work for you. Sponsor a job and boom, Instant Match shows you candidates whose resume on Indeed fit your job description immediately after you post. With Instant Match, you can start hiring fast.
And candidates you invite to apply through Instant Match are 3 times more likely to apply to your job than candidates who only see it in the search, according to U.S. Indeed data.
Indeed knows that when you're doing everything for your company, you can't afford to overspend on hiring. Visit Indeed.com/gaze to start hiring now. And that's Gaze, Gaze.
Again, that's Indeed.com/gaze. Terms and conditions apply. Cost per application pricing not available for everyone. Need to hire? You need Indeed. All right, it's time to play a game we started playing here in New River Gorge, which is I don't understand the appeal.
It's sort of like unpopular opinions, essentially. Right. Yeah. So this was like where we would like say something that was like very much so like in the
it was controversial,
it was
yet
controversial,
brave.
But yet brave. There you go. So, and then we kind of like parsed it out a little bit. So mayonnaise is the thing that we talked about a lot, obviously, because we always talk about mayonnaise with you.
Well, we do.
Yeah.
And we always talk about mayonnaise with you.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's a shared experience. You've got one.
I do. Yes.
Go for it.
Since we're in the fall season.
Okay.
I don't understand the appeal of prescribed, dry, boring Thanksgiving turkey dinners that like, I don't understand the appeal of that. Like,
Do you mean like
that people are like, oh my God, I love Thanksgiving for the turkey. And like I don't get that. I think Thanksgiving is a holiday. Just do it weird. Like, why does it have to be like, why does it have to be such a prescribed formula for that holiday?
Yeah.
I just think turkey is the boringest. No thanks.
Wait, but do you think turkey's boring?
I do.
Okay.
And I think that, a lot of people were like, I love the sides for Thanksgiving. People make their personality the sides for Thanksgiving. They're like,
true.
This is my personality. It's the Thanksgiving sides. And yeah, there are some great sides for Thanksgiving, mostly comfort food. But like, let's do like a Greek Thanksgiving and just make all Greek food. Or let's do like a Thai Thanksgiving. Like, why does it have to be?
Let's just open it up, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Like, I don't understand the appeal of Thanksgiving, I guess.
I mean, I feel like you really love turkey and you make it very well. I could understand wanting to do it then, but like I have to say, like it took me a long time in my life to come around to Thanksgiving food. You know what I mean? Like, similar unpopular opinion. I don't get the appeal. Like, I never, ever liked cornbread dressing. Just to me...
Is this yours or is this just jumping off of what
It's just jumping off.
Yeah.
I have something else to share. But I just never, like, even when it was well made, I was like, I think it's the texture thing.
Thank you for introducing something
stuffing.
to me.
You might know what is stuffing.
Okay.
But that you make it in a pan.
Yeah.
And you bake it.
Yeah.
And it's cornbread.
Yeah, I got you.
Right. We call it dressing in the South.
Interesting.
It's called dressing in the South. But anyway, no, just that was never good. I never liked it. My mom is an incredible cook and is, lauded for her Thanksgiving food, which does sort of follow the traditional Thanksgiving food, but she loves it. So that's why she does that, right? I'm one to be like, as soon as something's like, well, this is the way it's always done, I'm like, I'm out. I'm not here. I don't care. Right? I don't want it. This is all the more reason to change it. You know what I mean?
Change it.
Do something else, right? But I do love I love a weird Thanksgiving.
Yeah, maybe that's the opportunity. I feel like you're steeped in tradition in your family. That's when like a Friendsgiving can sort of like be the antidote to that, you know?
I do want to share with something that we have done with our group of friends. I do love our like sort of themed potlucks that we have.
We do, yeah.
We have themed potlucks from like every now and again,
yeah,
right?
We've done a ravioli night. We did a sausage making night.
The ravioli night was so great.
Yeah.
And this as was the sausage making night. But like the way that the ravioli worked was like, there was like, someone did the math and was like, there are going to be this many people here. You need to bring as much filling
and sauce making material
for a ravioli so that everybody can get 2 or something like that.
And then be able to take home like 4 to 6.
6.
Yeah.
Right. So like we all only ate like 2 raviolis per like, ravioli that was made.
But that was like 10 or 12 ravioli.
Right.
Yeah.
And then we all got all these to-go containers and we could all eat ravioli for like the next 2 months because we, froze it and like it was great.
It was great. Yeah.
So I love that.
Yeah.
We're gathering for food, and I will say, as I mentioned, like my family adores the traditional Thanksgiving stuff.
Yeah.
But we've all worked really hard to perfect all those various things, right? And so I think that's why we really enjoy them.
Yeah.
And we never make them otherwise.
Yeah.
Except at Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
So like nobody's making turkey, nobody's making,
Yeah.
except for these big giant dinners. But yes, I'm for like the explorer.
Yeah.
Get weird with
Yeah.
it. The thing I was going to say, I don't understand the appeal, is combos.
Oh, okay.
Meaning the snack food that is often available at gas stations. I am sorry. I just think they're not tasty.
Well, I mean, they have a taste to them. It's a taste you don't enjoy. It's
a taste I don't enjoy.
And that's fair.
I don't get the appeal.
Yeah, that's fair.
Part of it, I'm like, anytime I eat a combo, I'm like, this is disgusting.
They're like the lowest
horrible.
common denominator, like junk food. You know what I mean? It's the thing that like I would reach for last. Slim Jims are high on my list of things.
Well, Slim Jims are great, but combos, no. No. It's just not. It's
you don't
just
like
not
the
it
pizza
for
filling
me.
Or the cheese?
No. No.
I mean, what about the peanut butter ones? Do they make those? I feel like they should because it's like
I
basically peanut butter pockets without the pocket.
Well, I'm not allowed to have those anymore.
Right, you aren't because of normal reasons.
Because of farts, everybody. We're going to be honest with everybody here. When Dusty has peanut butter filled pretzels, it becomes a lethal situation for everyone around.
Everybody.
So we have said, you know what? We're not bringing peanut butter filled pretzels with us as snacks anymore. And that's what it is. I do have those, however, on my own time. But then
when you can, hotbox yourself.
Hotbox myself. And I do have to say, I don't do that often because it's also not an enjoyable experience. So now we are about to embark onto the Castle Rock Trail.
Right.
Which is another offshoot from the main Overlook Trail here at the Grandview area in New River Gorge. And it's like almost like just like a hop skip over.
Oh yeah, you just like come up from Tunnel View and
then you walk across and then there you go.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah. We definitely did some research in the car about this and found that in Grandview in total we'd be hiking about 4 miles. So this was like perfect in our like we're tired but we could still do more hiking, not a 12-mile day. With Castle Rock, you also have the opportunity and option to get onto the Grandview Rim Trail here, which is exactly what we were going to do. There was really only one other trail in this section, which was the Little Laurel Trail, and we definitely considered it, but it wasn't along the rim, and it seemed like it was more of a walk in the woods, and these two just seemed, or I should say 3, Tunnel, Castle Rock, and Grandview Rim seemed more interesting because of their locations.
And because of what we might be able to see from them.
Exactly.
So Castle Rock Trail is a 1.1 mile loop. However, there's 2 sections of it, and there's a way to connect later with the Grandview Rim Trail. While we will end up doing the entire loop eventually on this trail, we're starting by taking the lower spur of the trail, which goes lower next to the canyon edge, but down like inside of it a little bit.
Yes.
And that is going to then bring us to the Grandview Rim Trail and later on to a terminal point to Turkey Spur Rock.
Right, exactly. As soon as we get on the trail, it basically dives down immediately and takes us along a very rocky ridgeline. And there are still loads of leaves here, but amongst them are incredibly green rhododendron, which gives some lovely burst of life coming through in the spring here.
Not far above us is the upper ridge. So we're able to get some good views of the river while we're down here. But there is literally, it's like hiking next to a wall.
Yeah.
We were hiking next to a wall to our left, and at points over to the right, the vegetation would open up and clear, and we could have a like picturesque, giant, sweeping, panoramic view of the horseshoe bend of the New River.
Right. It kind of, in my mind, felt like the Petroglyphs Trail in Mesa Verde, minus, of course, the ruins and the petroglyphs, because it was sort of like same thing. We hiked the lower part,
and then we came back
when
on
we
the
got
upper
to the
part.
petroglyphs, we ended up coming up on the lower part. Yeah. So it feels like the rock wall, which is to our left, is really compacted and made up of separate layers of stone. It's really neat to see how this rock differs in a lot of ways from what we saw on the tunnel trail, because it is very different here.
And the stacked rock in this wall is serving a bunch of different shades of gray, brown, tan, and like striations are visible.
Again, a ton of rhododendron. It's got to be very beautiful in the spring when everything's in bloom here. And it's always really cool. Like, I just feel like we've been in so many spaces, even in New River when we were on Long Point, where the rhododendron sort of create this tunnel. They just kind of gnarl together and they kind of sweep over the trail. I even feel like when we were in Hawaii, there were rhododendron, like kind of like creating tunnels for you to walk through. I'm sure, which had been altered just for you to walk through, but it's neat.
Generally speaking, this is a beautiful, beautiful walk. That felt so magical because the light from the sun is beaming through the vegetation off to the right, and it's hitting the wall in different spots, and it's illuminating different spots of the rock and giving things different color.
Much of the trail is a descent, but eventually we will start to bound back up, and that sort of is our signifier that we're getting a little closer to the Grandview Rim Trail.
So we both had our poles with us here on this hiking excursion for this day, which was probably good because there were quite a few tree roots here and some medium-sized stones that, we had to step over at various points along this lower spur.
There are a bigger section of rocks and roots that we have to get over before it becomes a little bit flatter ground. And again, here it's just so much rhododendron and so much moss the entire way, which again, adding to the picturesque nature of this whole section in general. I do feel like, for me, this felt like the prettiest sort of section in New River. And I'm sure when it's all green, we didn't get a chance to get on these trails when we were there when it was greener, but
Correct.
I'm sure it was beautiful in the fall.
We did get to another section of this, and we stumble upon this huge rock wall that is just sort of sloping and curving, and we have to make our way around it or up against it in order to continue on the trail. But it was it had a very slate stone feel to it. I remember feeling how cold the stone was, and just seeing the light bounce off of it.
This is also where we start to see bigger sections of the river because there are clearer views. And eventually, that big rock wall sort of leads us to what I would guess would be what would be considered to be Castle Rock. All densely packed stone. There are so many different colors here, which again catches the light in so many truly beautiful ways. The wall is sharp but beautiful, and it's almost like a gigantic sort of slate backsplash. I feel like we just felt so small here. All of a sudden it just feels like the elevation of this wall based off of everything else we had been hiking along is just like 2 or 3 times taller. Like it just felt immense there.
A lot of awe and wonder just here in this moment. We were also the only ones here on this trail.
Well, that's what I felt like, though, sort of the entire time. Like,
in New
we
River,
really...
or just here?
In a lot of New River, it was very quiet, which ain't no complaints about that. No complaints. But yeah, Tunnel, we saw a few people, but here on Castle Rock, we saw no one really. And even when we get into Grandview, or the Grandview Rim Trail, there really wasn't anybody until we got to the end. So it was very, very quiet, which was nice. It just added to the very kind of peaceful, late kind of day feel.
Yes. And the other thing that I really like about this trail is that it offered so many textures, right? I remember the texture of the ground changing a lot based on where we were. Yeah. Sometimes it was dirt. Sometimes it was dirt with gravel. Sometimes it was roots. Sometimes it was stone. And then the texture of the wall is just constantly changing as we were walking by it. And sometimes it was speckles inside of the stone. Yeah. Sometimes it was really, really flat and cold stone. Sometimes it was like a little bit more jagged. Sometimes it had more layers to it. But there was a lot of really beautiful like ebb and flow of different textures happening constantly.
Yeah. This is also a section where, as we get closer to the end of Castle Rock, we get incredible views of the river here. A lot more clear-cut views of what was happening. I do have to say, Castle Rock felt like, if that's what we're going to call it, felt like it was a very long section of wall. Because I just felt like we walked under it. Maybe it was just the awe that made it feel very long. Because I just remember like looking up at it, like looking at it all different angles. After like kind of the section, we all of a sudden bound up pretty quickly, and that kind of takes us right to the Grandview Rim Trail.
And with that, let's take our second break. Our next partner has a product I literally use every day. I started taking Athletic Greens because I wanted the best immune system possible. I'm somebody who takes vitamins every day, and I just felt like Athletic Greens was definitely something to try out.
I started taking Athletic Greens to improve my gut health, which is a journey I've sort of been on for the last few years with different probiotics and things like that. Your gut health is tied to so much of your other health, including sleep, that I felt Athletic Greens was giving me the best source for that gut health.
One scoop of Athletic Greens is 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help start your day right.
This special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, focus, and aging.
Okay, so we both started taking Athletic Greens, also known as AG1. I take it in the morning. It's the first thing I do. Sometimes I incorporate it into a shake. It has a great flavor. I also have all of the to-go packets. I took them with me when I traveled. I gave some to my mom. I gave some to other family members that I saw. I really love it because I'm not somebody who drinks coffee, and I'm not somebody who takes in caffeine, but I feel like it gives me energy all the way to the end of the day.
Yeah, and for me, I am a coffee drinker, but I would take my vitamins and sort of any probiotic in the morning along with what I eat for breakfast. This was such a great supplement to that habit of having breakfast and coffee. It tastes really good too.
And it's like one-stop shop for all of your vitamins for the day.
Right.
It's the small micro habit that you can do every day, and your subscription comes with a year's supply of vitamin D, which is great for these winter months that we're about to go into. And for every purchase, Athletic Greens donates to organizations to help get nutritious foods to kids in need, including No Kid Hungry.
It's good for any diet, whether you're vegetarian, on paleo, or keto. AG1 or Athletic Greens is gluten-free, nut-free, dairy-free, egg-free, and there is no added sugar. Athletic Greens also supports better sleep quality and recovery and is a climate-neutral certified company.
Right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition, especially heading into flu and cold season. It's just one scoop in a cup of water every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health.
To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/gaze. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/gaze, and that's GAZE, to take ownership over your health and pick up your ultimate daily nutritional insurance.
I'm really excited to incorporate this on days where we do really long hikes. Ladies and gentlemen,
Please welcome to the stage
a double act.
My sister and I had an act that couldn't flop. My sister and I had dental queens that went straight to the top.
Queen number 1 is
Cholesterine.
and her sister halitosis.
That's right. Welcome to the stage.
Cholesterine, halitosis.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great.
Yeah. They're dental queens.
I guess they are dental queens.
There's no way to escape it.
No, we have to just.
I feel like
embrace.
they have sexy teeth dancers that come out in
Oh,
costumes.
who are just teeth?
Yeah, their teeth, but like it's like you can see their abs and their pecs through their teeth costume. It's a very like sex positive act.
Okay. Oh, I see. Interesting. Maybe maybe they're just painted white. Mm-hmm. Like their bodies are painted white.
And they maybe wear like a crown that looks like a tooth.
Like the
a
top
molar,
of a tooth.
like
right.
a molar. I love it.
Exactly.
Great.
Oh, I'm here for it. Right?
Yeah.
I don't know. And I'm like, well, maybe they're like, oh, no, I have it.
Oh, okay.
I have it.
Mm-hmm.
No, the dancers are all dirty teeth.
Oh,
and
they're
then,
dirty teeth.
And through like...
Dirty mouth.
And through like a scrub down... and through like water from the ceiling a la Flashdance, they become...
Clean
the tartar is washed away.
Got it.
There we go.
Got it. I love it.
Yes.
So it's a very immersive experience.
It's an immersive experience. Yes.
And it's all to teach kids about dental care.
Hygiene.
Dental
right.
hygiene. Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't know if it's to teach kids.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's to teach adults about dental hygiene.
So they can relay it to their
because,
children.
let's be honest, I know a lot of adults who need some dental hygiene reminders.
Yes.
Right?
Some gentle dental.
Some gentle dental hygiene reminders.
That's right. I feel like Candy Girl is a song that's sung.
Oh, I like that. Or I Want Candy is probably also
and
another
also
one.
Candy by Mandy Moore. Maybe it's like a 3-song mashup. I feel like that'd be
love
great.
that. I love
great.
that.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's also Smile incorporated by that one singer, Lily Allen. Lily Allen.
Oh.
Smile by Lily Allen, I think, is part of it. Because we can't do Smile like written by Charlie Chaplin because it's just too much of a downer.
Smile.
That one.
Though your heart is breaking.
I mean, I get that
saddest.
it's such a sad song,
Woof.
y'all. Sorry about it. So sad.
Yeah. And I do feel like their merch is like a bag with like you'd get from the dentist.
Absolutely.
it's just floss.
It's
a little
your
travel toothpaste,
reach brush, and
No, maybe it's a bamboo brush.
Maybe
they partner
brush.
with like a
no plastic
bamboo
compostable, right? Exactly. And then
little glass vial with your floss in it instead of plastic.
Perfect.
And some chewable toothpaste tablets.
There you go.
We're not naming any sponsors.
No.
We're not sponsored
because we don't know any of those.
Yeah.
And
it's a paper.
We have no idea.
It's a paper bag, not a plastic bag.
Right.
Great.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I love it.
Mm-hmm.
I love it.
Yeah.
So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome this double act to the stage.
Cholesterine and halitosis.
So, we finally get to the top.
Yeah, I mean that made it sound like we had climbed the summit of Everest, but yes.
We didn't. We got to
the Grandview Rim Trail, basically.
Right. So getting to this sort of like juncture, if we head to the left, we would have taken the upper part of Castle Rock back to the starting location, back to that main overlook trail. Or if we go to the right, we take the Grandview Rim Trail off to a terminal point, and that terminal point was Turkey Spur Rock.
And so in total on the way out to Turkey Spur Rock from this point, it would be 1.25 miles. And then all the way back to the parking lot from there, it's about 1.75 miles, adding in the half a mile for the top of Castle Rock Trail. Not at all that bad, really, in the grand scheme of things.
No, this is a really lovely walk. And what I did appreciate getting up to the top and getting onto the Grandview Rim Trail was that the terrain became flat.
And soft.
Because we had been on rocky terrain, uneven terrain for a while.
The only unfortunate thing here is that most of this part of the trail to Turkey Spur Rock is decline. And we know in our brains that oh girl, we're going to be climbing up when we're tired at the very end of our day. So, oh well, c'est la vie. We get a little nice rhododendron tunnel as soon as we get up, but it's all very soft forest floor rather than having to climb over a really, really bouldery landscape like Dusty was saying. So I think I probably packed my poles up at this point knowing what was happening and kind of reading the landscape there.
But we are essentially walking along the edge of the road here.
Oh, yeah.
Too.
Like the entire time, essentially.
Yeah. I remember I got a phone call here.
Yeah.
I don't remember what the phone call was about.
You were like, I have to take this. I'm really sorry.
Oh, it was work.
Yeah.
It was work, and it was my friend who was also my boss at the time giving me a whole bunch of updates about things. And I remember like that allowed us to just sort of like...
We kind of paused because we weren't sure that like cell phone reception would continue to keep up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we paused, which gave us a nice little break for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
There was a sign here about peregrine falcons.
Yeah, and there was a process known as hacking, which is apparently where young falcons are placed in a structure and cared for in a manner that minimizes human exposure to them.
I was not a birder yet, and so...
I mean, you were always a birder.
But she had not blossomed into...
Heart, don't fail me now.
Into the birder that I am now.
No, it's true. It's true.
So I remember seeing that and being like, oh, interesting, but... I don't know that I was even, like, I can't go on a trail and not hear every bird sound now.
Yeah.
And, like, at this point, I wasn't doing that.
Yeah. So after we're at this pause for a minute and we read a little bit more about hacking and, peregrine falcons, we continue on through a little bit more of rhododendron tunnels and then a lot of open space along the roadway. It's at this point... when we're hiking, we are really, really love the band Lake Street Dive. We're kind of semi-obsessed, with them as a band.
We saw them in concert.
We saw them twice in the last year, basically.
Twice this summer.
Yeah. Great band. So this is like right around the time.
I'm sorry, that was wrong. We didn't see them twice this summer. We saw them last fall, and then we saw them this summer again.
Yeah.
Twice in the same tour.
Basically, yeah. So their new singles had dropped. And so we were just kind of like singing and chatting.
But as you know, my single is dropping.
This is sort of also our first and only time on this trip, the entirety of the trip, where we were without Brian and Tino, like where it was just like old buddies hanging out again. Mm-hmm. So it was
I think what you mean to say is old biddies hanging
That's
out
right.
again.
I'm sorry. I mispronounced the U. Should have been a I.
Yeah.
But it was nice because we didn't have that, I mean, God, it was so great to hike with all four of us, but we're so used to just the two of us most of the time. It was like, oh, this is our moment here. And, it was just back on our old bullshit, like singing songs from Annie and talking about boys.
And it also reminded us of like, oh, yeah, this is why I hike with you all the time, because it's always a good time.
Mm-hmm. Betcha he reads.
Betcha she sews.
Exactly. There are times on this trail where we are right against the road and there are essentially no guardrails. Just thinking about that as the sun starts to set and how much fun that would be to be along the roadside with no light.
As we continue walking, we come upon a giant set of stairs that we have to
go... Little hyperbole there.
What's that?
It's a little bit of hyperbole there. They are giant in their own way, but I think for our purposes, they're sort of like small potatoes when we think about stairs.
At the time of our exhaustion, they felt like a lot.
They did, yes.
And we had to descend them.
Yes.
This was not great for...
Our mental state for later.
No, it brought up frustration. It brought up anger. It brought up sadness. It brought up pain. So, and we knew that we would just have to climb them later. But we bound down a little bit. And this is when we can start to see the Turkey Spur Rock in the distance. And we know that there are some cars there.
Yeah, we can see some cars driving out to it too.
And that there's a parking lot sort of there. But the road that is headed to the spot, the trail is sort of running alongside it.
Yes. As we get close to it, again, we're basically the entire time on this trail, we're the only people there until we're at Turkey Spur Rock. And that's where people are getting out of their cars to kind of like do the sights here. There's a paved path as we get closer to the rock that leads us up to a fire escape style kind of set of stairs. And there is a decent amount of them. This takes us up to the top, which is the terminal point, really, for this trail.
It does feel like a battlement in some ways, or sort of like a giant playground up here, because it was different
viewpoints.
Structures built that are connected by different stairs. Sometimes it felt like we had to go up and then in order to go down, in order to go up again, in order to get to another one.
Yeah.
So it was a little jungle Jimmy in that
Yeah.
way. But it offered some really spectacular views.
I mean aside from the Grandview view, and this is the thing too, obviously this is not necessarily a point that everyone can do because it is stair accessible. But if you can see Grandview, it's a beautiful view and it's mostly very accessible out there. But if you have the opportunity and you can drive, even if you don't want to hike out here, it's not a terribly long hike. It's almost 2 miles out and 2 miles back. And if you don't want to hike it, you can just drive it. It's kind of a great view.
It's worth it.
You get a
certainly.
different sort of shot of the river, different bends in the river. Again, here we're seeing kind of the brownish landscape that is pervasive at this time, but there are some purple points in the background, like of the mountain peaks, that it's like, oh, okay, well, it's interesting to see the different color because the brown is only so interesting
the
at
brown,
this point.
Yeah, right,
Yeah.
certainly.
Mm-hmm.
We stay up here for a few minutes after we finally get to the top of Turkey Spur Rock. We stay up here for a few minutes. We take it in. I remember sitting on a bench for a few, just sort of drinking in the surroundings. This was also where we had a little bit of cell phone signal.
Yeah.
So we let Brian know, hey, it should be about 30 minutes until we're back to the parking lot.
Yeah.
We sent that message along, and then it was also around 4:30. We said, oh, we're probably going to lose light soon, so let's hoof it back.
Yeah. We have to climb back up that giant hill of steps.
Well,
And-
first we have to climb down Turkey
yeah,
Spur
yeah,
Rock.
yeah, yeah.
And then we make it back onto the trail that is on the side of the road. And alas, those stairs.
Yeah, and this is all just sort of uphill. We kind of toyed around with, should we just have Brian come out to the rock and drive out here?
That
and
was
pick us
another
up?
thought. And we said,
We're
no,
like, no,
because
he's already coming out to get us.
And
Yeah.
he totally would have.
Yeah.
He totally would have
Yeah.
without a problem. But we had made a plan and wanted to honor what the plan was.
Yeah. Once we get up those steps, are sort of like booking it at this point, enjoying the scenery, but now the tiredness have set in. So our walls have approached, and
And
we
the
are,
delirium has set
the
in.
delirium is here. Yeah, because we'd done on this day already all of Sandstone Falls, then hiked Big Branch, then did
And
this.
then did all of this.
So we did like a lot.
And
in
that's
this
like
day.
the last month and a half of episodes, everybody, all in one day.
Yeah. Yeah. When we get back to the rhododendron tunnel where we came up from Castle Rock Trail, we know we only have a half mile left, and we're both like ecstatic about that to get back to the parking lot area.
The upper part of the Castle Rock Trail feels terrainly very similar to what we have just been on over on the Grandview
Just a little
Rim.
bit more trees, maybe.
A little more trees.
Densely kind of
We
trees.
do finally start to see the parking lot in the distance. As we get closer, we know we have a little bit of time left before Brian is to get here. So we just plop down on a bench and we just sit there and we hang out and eat snacks.
Oh my God. My favorite part after hiking
Yeah.
is just like silent but loud crunching.
Yeah.
Snacking.
And that was what we did. It did feel a little bit like waiting on Dad to come pick us up.
And Dad did pick us up.
Or Mom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Brian could also be Mom.
Brian, yes. But he definitely was like, oh, boys, how was soccer today?
And we were like, it was good, Dad.
Yep. Or
Here it
Mom.
is. Or Mom.
Yeah.
And yeah, so we told him all about it. And then we headed back to the cabin.
For some hot tub evening.
All right, let's put these different sections onto the Karen Stone scale.
Great.
Okay, tunnel hike.
Tunnel trail, I would say, is a 4. I felt like it was nice. It was a little challenging, but like very doable.
And I'm actually going to say a 3.
Okay.
Because in my recollection of it, it felt fairly simple. So a 7 out of 20 Karen Stones.
Great. What about Castle Rock Trail?
Let's
We'll say the
specifically
low
to the lower
point, yeah.
the lower section. I'm going to give that a 4.
Okay.
Because yes, the terrain is a little bit of a challenge. And, you know, I do remember like it's a bit of a grunt to get down and then to get back up.
Okay. Mine felt like a 4 there too. I felt like these both felt, this was a little trickier, but I felt like it was 4 worthy. 4-thy.
Okay. And then what about the rim trail out to Turkey Spur?
I'm also going to give it a 4. Like, I feel like it's 4s across the board for me. I didn't feel like anything here was too strenuous or particularly difficult. I felt like they're very middle of the road, kind of manageable trails, and they're just nice views.
Yeah. I'm also giving it a 4.
Yeah.
So 8 out of 20 for the Castle Rock, 8 out of 20 for the Grandview Rim Trail. And I feel like generally these are all on the lower end of moderate, if that.
For sure.
Or the upper end of easy.
So a nice way to explore a section of the park. And you can do it. I think we did it all pretty quickly, in the grand scheme of things.
And also like
an hour and a half, 2 hours.
And I feel like, honestly, even if you just do one of these 3, you can still get a sense of this section without doing all 3.
Yes.
And so let's end this episode the way we end all of our episodes, with some Jeopardy-style trivia.
Beautiful.
All right, Mike, why don't I start with mine today?
Great.
Okay, inspired by Grandview, my category is called In the Viewfinder.
I love it.
Okay, so in each one of these, I'm going to describe for you some different photos that you're seeing in the viewfinder.
Great.
And by viewfinder, I'm thinking of like the
red binoculars.
The red binoculars that you
I knew
click.
what you were talking about.
Right,
You
not
put a
the
wheel
thing
in.
on the...
Yeah.
Not the thing on a ledge that you look through.
Not the thing at like the Statue of Liberty you put a quarter in.
Right,
for.
not that. No, I'm talking about
like
the red
I went
viewfinder
to
with
Italy
slides.
and here are my slides, because that's exactly what those used to be for. It wasn't like when we were kids and like, oh, like here's like a story that you can click through. Like my grandparents
those were really fun.
They
though.
were, but like I remember my grandparents had really great ones that they were just basically their slide photos from Italy that you could make into those wheels, which was so cool.
It was great because I mean, trust me, I'd rather store those tiny little wheels with like 100 pictures on them than like 100 photos.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, now they don't exist anymore, but whatever. Okay, great. So I'm going to describe for you 5 things you're seeing in the viewfinder.
And I have to tell you where we're at?
You have to tell me the film.
Oh. Okay.
They're all clues for a movie.
Great.
Okay, great. For 100.
Okay.
A tiara.
Mm-hmm.
A heart.
Mm-hmm.
A fishing boat.
Mm-hmm.
Car headlights on a dark road.
Okay.
A hook.
Oh, what is I Know What You Did Last Summer?
That's right. Correct.
Uh-huh.
For 200.
Mm-hmm.
A glass of water.
Okay.
A plate of eggs.
Mm-hmm.
A courtroom. A copy machine.
Mm-hmm. What is Aaron Brockovich?
That is right, girl. 2 for 2. For 300.
Mm-hmm.
A clover.
Mm-hmm.
A pom-pom.
Mm-hmm.
A relay race baton.
Mm-hmm.
A crowd at a sporting event.
Mm-hmm.
A second place trophy.
What is Bring It On?
That is correct.
Mm-hmm.
3 for 3. For 400, a red feather. A sheer pink robe with feathered boa fringe. A Girl Scout uniform. An expensive looking car. A home in Bel Air.
What is Troop Beverly Hills?
That's correct. Also, what a beautiful, glorious movie.
Beautiful.
That's right. And for 500,
Mm-hmm.
a martini.
Mm-hmm.
A yearbook. A white blazer.
Mm-hmm.
A hanging plant.
Mm-hmm.
A card written on beautiful stationery.
It is the First Wives Club.
That is correct.
Mm-hmm. All gay cinema for 5 for 5.
5 for 5.
Great. Well, lovely. That was great. Thank you.
welcome.
I think that's a great category to bring back at some point, too.
In
Just
the viewfinder.
saying.
I think it's a fun game to play generally.
Yeah, it's sort of like Pentagram,
It's
too.
like Pentagram,
Yeah.
but like, I don't know. Like, it's less about
Game we haven't
essence.
played in a while.
It's less about essence and more about visuals.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Okay, so my game is Castles of Fiction,
Oh.
referencing Castle Rock.
Got it.
Great. For 100, Though winter is forbidden till December, and exits March the 2nd on the dot, by order summer lingers through September. In this mystical and mythical kingdom and castle, also the nickname of JFK's administration.
What is Camelot?
Here in Camelot. Also a musical.
Oh, it's a great musical.
Okay, for 200. While very much a castle built by 4 powerful magicians, this space is also an educational center with like the worst 7-year track record for keeping kids safe.
What is Hogwarts?
That's correct. For 300. Cair Paravel, which actually means lesser court, is a castle long without kings and queens, 4 of them to be precise, as a frosty queen had taken over the land, awaiting not only the kings and queens to sit atop their thrones, but their mystical lion Jesus to return in this beloved book series.
Jesus?
Yeah, he's like Jesus.
But his name is Aslan.
I know, but like he's like a lion Jesus.
I mean, yeah, but like his name isn't Jesus.
Oh, I know.
I just want to be clear.
Sorry, I know it's not Jesus.
Okay,
sorry,
great.
I should have said lion like Jesus.
Okay,
there we go.
Jesus like lion.
Jesus like lion.
Right.
In this Christian mythology, I
have
Christian
you know I'm a
illiterate.
Christian illiterate.
Yeah.
Right. It's the 30 Rock reference, everybody. The Queen of Jordan. What is Narnia? Or what is The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe?
Thank
Narnia
you.
series
There we
by
go.
C.S.
Yes,
Lewis.
thank you. Jeez.
Great.
Somebody had trauma around that. Okay. For 400, Baradur and Isengard are 2 tall, tower-like castles in this epic fantasy series by J.R.R. Tolkien. The second of the 3 books' titles references these castles in the name. Name the series and the book.
What is The Lord of the Rings and what is The Two Towers?
That's correct. Exactly.
Great.
And for 500, this northernmost castle in this George R.R. Martin fantasy vehicle is sort of like the last defense against the vagrants and demons of anything further north. The name sounds like if this cold and icy season was suddenly tripping over its way into the year.
What is Winter Falls?
Oh, so close.
Hold on, I'm going to try again.
If it's the past tense.
What is Winterfell?
That's correct. There you go.
Winterfell.
Yeah, for 500. Look at you.
me, and I don't even watch or read Game of Thrones.
There you go.
Great. And I don't because of the wigs. And sorry. The wigs in House of the Dragon aren't much better, everybody. So I still can't participate in that. This has been Gaze at the National Parks, the podcast, and we're here to remind you to hike early and hike often, and that adventure is always out there.
Gaze at the National Parks was created and is hosted by us,
Dustin Ballard.
and Michael Ryan.
To see images of this episode, visit our Instagram, Gaze at the National Parks. To contact us, email us at gazeatthenationalparks@gmail.com. And to find out more about the parks visited on this show, visit our website, gazeatthenationalparks.com. That's Gaze, G-A-Z-E.
All original artwork featured on Instagram, on our website, and in the Gaze Shop is by me, Michael Ryan.
All original music was written by Dave Seaman and performed by Dave Seaman, Mariella Klinger, and Sean Sklios. Our music producer is Skyler Fortgang. This episode was edited by me, Dustin Ballard.
We would also like to acknowledge that we're recording this episode that we were on the traditional and stolen lands of the Lenape people, also known as Middlesex County, New Jersey.